Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up a stack of source material that outlines a cognitive revolution,
Hmm.
but probably not the one you're expecting. We're diving into a future where artificial intelligence has become so ubiquitous, so powerful,
Right.
that its own success actually creates this acute, unforeseen human crisis. We're looking at excerpts from this fascinating piece called The 2026 Paradox: Intelligence Without Judgment.
Yeah.
And our mission really is to get to the bottom of why the year 2026 is projected to be this true inflection point.
And it's not about a new chip or a bigger model.
No, exactly. It's about a global shift in feeling, a feeling that AI is suddenly completely inescapable. It's baked into our work, our governance, our daily lives.
And that feeling of inescapability, that leads us straight into the paradox.
Okay.
We're unpacking what happens when technological velocity, the sheer speed at which these tools work and evolve, just completely outstrips our human capacity for sense-making.
So it moves too fast.
Way too fast. The source argues that while machines can multiply insights, they can accelerate decision pathways. The human ability to decide well under that kind of pressure, it just begins to fracture.
So wait, the biggest risk isn't that the AI fails, but that we fail to keep up with how brilliant it is?
Precisely. We have to confront this new reality that for organizations in 2026, acceleration is no longer a guaranteed asset. It's actually becoming the biggest liability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why is 2026 the year intelligence finally outruns judgment? If you think about the last 50 years of business, of tech progress, we've been relentlessly optimized for acceleration, faster analysis, faster execution, faster feedback loops.
That's the whole mantra.
It is, and AI just turbocharges all three of those things exponentially.
Yeah.
But the source material highlights that this optimization for speed, it has this deep underlying fragility. We've designed a system where speed is the feature, but that speed is also the breaking point.
And this shows up as a really strange new type of organizational paralysis.
Paralysis.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that the cause of this paralysis has completely flipped. It is no longer caused by a lack of information or computing power.
It's the opposite.
It's caused by a sudden, overwhelming excess of it.
You're saying we're drowning in smarts?
We are. Just imagine a planning session where AI systems could generate 100 brilliant, well-researched, optimal scenarios for the next quarter.
Wow.
And they can do that in an afternoon. 5 years ago, getting 3 good options was a win.
Huge win.
Now you have 100, each fully simulated. The leader or the executive team, they simply do not have the capacity, the sheer attention budget to evaluate all of that.
So what happened?
The result is delayed action or, even worse, fragmented, incoherent action.
So if the machine has solved for intelligence, the scarce resource is no longer raw knowledge. It's the ability to filter and choose.
Exactly.
It really sounds like the source is challenging the whole idea that just being data-driven is a good thing anymore.
It absolutely is. The critical realization here is that the constraint has shifted. Intelligence has become abundant. It's cheap thanks to these AI systems.
Right.
But judgment, the wisdom to know which brilliant option to pick, and just as important, which ones to discard, that's now acutely scarce.
Because the AI is doing its job perfectly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
The machines are providing intelligence at this immense velocity. The failure or the mismatch is entirely human. We've hit our cognitive speed limit for making sense of it all.
And if you can't digest what the tool is giving you,
Then that tool is actually adding friction. It's slowing the final decision down.
that makes perfect sense. Okay, so if that pace is creating fragility and paralysis at the top, that pressure has to cascade down through the organization. Where do the cracks first start to show?
Well, it doesn't show up in big headlines or mass layoffs, which is why the source calls it the quiet fracture of middle management. Middle managers are the critical connectors, right? They're supposed to translate strategy into execution. But when strategy is changing by the hour, driven by these AI insights, their jobs just become unmanageable. And when we start to see middle management roles diverging into two very, very distinct categories under this pressure.
Okay, tell us about those two paths.
The first type, these are the leaders who figure out how to manage all that velocity. They become integrators.
Integrators.
These are the people who can successfully frame massive ambiguity for their teams. They actively protect their team's attention from the flood of data. And this is the key, they are the ones who deliberately slow decisions down at the right moment.
To ensure coherence.
Exactly. An integrator might choose to ignore the AI's recommendation for a pivot in Q3, not because the AI is wrong, but because they know Their human team is just exhausted from the changes in Q2. They prioritize human capacity over pure machine optimization.
I love that idea of leaders who actively protect attention. So what about the other path?
The second path, well, that leads to the throughput bottlenecks. These are managers who are just overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed by the volume of data, the pressure to use every new tool the company buys. They can't contextualize the information or align it with the human realities of their team.
So they become obstacles.
They become obstacles, a choke point, precisely because they're trying to manage too much velocity. They can't move the right information forward, or sometimes they can't move at all.
I can just picture that bottleneck manager. Their entire week is just review meetings where the agenda keeps getting revised by the newest AI report.
Right.
And nothing concrete ever gets decided. They just mistake all that activity for actual output.
That's the organizational reality. And this incoherence, this misalignment, it results in a strange type of institutional failure.
Yeah.
You have organizations with the most cutting-edge AI in the world.
Yeah.
And they struggle to act coherently. Analysis accelerates. You can multiply your simulations 1,000 times over, but consensus actually weakens because every team is operating off a different, rapidly generated data point. Everyone is smart, but nobody is aligned.
And the source gives a name to this failure, right?
It does. It's defined as anticipatory governance failure.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means the institution literally cannot metabolize or integrate these tools as fast as the tools themselves are evolving. Imagine your security team spends 6 months integrating this powerful, bespoke AI monitoring system.
Right.
By the time they fully roll it out, the AI model itself has been completely superseded by a better, cheaper version released last month. The failure isn't technical. It's the organization's inability to manage the velocity of the tech it buys.
That's a powerful idea. So if AI capability is becoming broadly accessible, everyone can get their hands on a powerful model, and that capability can lead to paralysis. What's actually scarce? What is the true competitive edge in 2026?
Well, it's not intelligence, like we've said. The source argues that the answer is coherence. Specifically, coherent priorities that last longer than a news cycle, coherent narratives that unify people, and coherent decisions that hold up under immense pressure.
And coherence takes time.
It requires time and shared understanding, which velocity actively destroys.
So this means the profile of a successful leader has to change fundamentally. We're not looking for the fastest reactor anymore.
Far from it.
Yeah.
The successful leader in this 2026 paradox is the one who sees deepest, not just furthest. They understand that leadership is now about saying no to almost every option the system presents. They know not just when to move, but when they need to pause.
To let the human element catch up.
Exactly, to wait for people to catch up. They are masters of alignment, but that alignment isn't just strategic, it's emotional as well.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source reclassifies emotional intelligence. It's no longer a soft skill, just for making people feel good. They elevate it to essential safety infrastructure.
That is the precise term they use. If your decisions are fundamentally fragile because of sheer speed and complexity, you need resilience baked into the human core of the organization.
And that's emotional intelligence.
It is. Resilience is built through trust, communication, shared understanding, all of that. In fact, they define 3 new measurable performance drivers based on this.
What are those drivers?
Trust, psychological safety, and moral authority. When intelligence is machine-driven, the only way to effectively execute on it is through human wisdom and trust.
So what do?
They argue organizations must start treating reflection as a performance tool. You actually have to schedule time to slow down, to think. And critically, they identify learning velocity, the speed at which your people can adapt, as a strategic asset.
An asset that has to be protected.
Yes, even at the cost of execution speed.
That's a complete inversion of the last 20 years of business orthodoxy. Instead of optimizing the systems, you're optimizing the human loop.
Exactly. And this is the moment where the cognitive age sort of bifurcates. It splits. You'll have organizations on one path just chasing velocity, which leads to burnout and brittleness.
And the other path?
The other path understands human constraints strategically. And it leverages them to build this adaptive, self-aware resilience.
This whole discussion suggests that by 2026, every high-performing organization is going to rely on a specific, critical role. Maybe a person who is often unnamed, just quietly doing the heavy lifting of stabilization.
This stabilizing force is non-negotiable. They are the human bridge between the AI output and an actionable, wise decision. And this role, it really executes three core functions that technology just cannot touch.
Okay, lay those out for us.
First, they translate AI output into human judgment. They don't just summarize the data. They provide the ethical filter, the wisdom, the context that the systems lack. They answer the question, is this recommendation safe and does it align with our values? Second, they are the anchor for long-term coherence. When everything is shifting daily, this person holds the line.
They protect the mission.
Yes. If the machine suggests a rapid shift for a short-term gain, this person ensures that decision still aligns with the 10-year mission. They are the institutional memory. And third, they act as this vital stabilizing force during moments of decision compression.
You mean when things get really intense?
Exactly. When the velocity of options is overwhelming and the clock is ticking, they don't make the decision for the leader, but they ensure the leader is making that choice with maximum mental clarity because they've protected them from the noise.
But hold on, isn't that just a fancy name for like a chief strategy officer or maybe a chief ethics officer?
Not necessarily. The source is clear. This person is rarely an AI evangelist or a futurist. They don't necessarily even design the AI strategy.
So who are they?
They're often just the necessary person who helps the entire organization, from the front lines to the C-suite, to think wisely when everything else moves too fast. They're like a human gyroscope.
The human gyroscope. That synthesizes the entire paradox perfectly. It really marks the end of that long-held myth that just applying more intelligence automatically leads to better outcomes.
It does. The future belongs not to the most automated organizations, but specifically to the most self-aware organizations, the ones that know their inherent human constraints and actively strategically manage them.
This has been a truly fascinating deep dive. It feels less like sci-fi and more like an imminent organizational reality. We covered the transition from intelligence scarcity to judgment scarcity, the quiet fracture of middle management, and the critical elevation of emotional intelligence to safety infrastructure.
The primary takeaway for you, for the listener, is that the strategic work ahead is not about maximizing machine capability. That's becoming a commodity. The work is fundamentally about maximizing human wisdom and ensuring our judgment keeps pace with the tech we're building.
So what does this all mean for you right now? If we take the core insight of the 2026 paradox, the central question of this cognitive revolution is no longer, what can machines do for us? It is, instead, how do we remain wise when everything accelerates? Think about that question as you navigate the coming wave of change. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.